Demand Growth and the Student Poster Session Award. I think we have had 3.5 days that are very, very exciting. A lot of plenary issues, a lot of presentations. I think it has been really wonderful. And before we go to the presentation with the excellent speaker we have here, I will invite your colleagues to present the Student Poster Session Award. If you notice, during the lunch on Monday, we have some posters session. So I think we have something to say here. Please, John.
Good, yes, thank you, Ricardo. So, you'll recall that on Monday and Tuesday lunchtimes, in connection with the lunch breaks there, we held the student poster sessions on 2 days, and during the 2 days, there were a total of 32 posters presented, and I enlisted a panel of judges who essentially every poster was judged 3 or 4 or even 5 times independently. We gathered all the results together and reviewed them this morning. A rather difficult decision. I mean, I would say all the posters were of very, very high quality, but we had to come to the one decision, a single prize of $1,000, and we arrived at a decision. And the decision, it was one of the posters that was presented on the Monday. It is a student who was from a joint program between MIT and a Chinese institution. He's currently at MIT. It was board number 6, and I'm going to attempt to pronounce his name, Xiu Hu Lu. If he's here, please come forward. This time of the day, at this time of the conference, some people have departed. We will ensure he gets the certificate and the cheque. Thank you very much.
Well, so I think it's time for our last session, Global Energy Demand Growth. Well, United Nations have estimated that in the decade of 2030, we are going to be about 9 billion. Okay, so that's a lot of people in the world. If we look what happened in the last decade, also we have some good news in the sense that the poverty level has decreased. Okay, so from 1.9 billion of people living under the level of poverty to have today, we still have 1.2 billion of people living under the level of poverty. And if that will continue, well, I think we will be much better off. We will have a better world. But more people, increasing levels of living conditions, certainly is putting an increasing pressure on energy demand. And the Energy Information Administration estimated that energy consumption, global energy consumption can increase by 20% in 2020, almost 40% in 2030, and about 55% by 2040. So that's a lot. So what we are going to do, where we are going to have the resources to satisfy that energy consumption increase. Okay, so that's the questions that we are trying to answer in this panel. And we have a very distinguished group of speakers. We are going to, I will be very brief in presenting them, so because I want them to use the time in the presentations. And we're going to start with Mauricio Tormansky. He is president of EPE, Empresa de Pesquisa Energética de Brasil. That's a company that is in charge of the planning of the energy sector in Brazil. So, Mauricio, please.
Well, thank you. It's a great honor to participate in this plenary section to speak about the global energy demand growth. Let me present the long-run perspective of energy demand growth from the point of view of Brazil. In the next 10 years, the energy demand is expected to grow at the same pace of the GDP. And that's hardly the same we have observed in the last 10 years. From 2021, the energy demand is expected to grow less than the GDP. An important part of this change is mainly due to increase energy efficiency through the horizon up to 2050. Just to have an idea of the growing importance of energy efficiency in the future, energy savings are expected to represent an abatement of 13% of the increased demand in 10 years, and almost 26% of the increased energy demand from 2013 to 2050. But no matter how successful energy efficiency measures are in Brazil, in the coming years, energy demand will definitely grow. If our forecasts are correct, in 2050, Brazil have a GDP per capita equivalent to the current OECD rich countries today. And as a result, the energy consumption per capita will also increase. How to meet the expected demand growth in the next 10, 15, and 40 years? It means that we'll need to increase the supply of energy in the horizon in a significant manner. First, where do we want to stand right now? Brazil has an energy balance that is a worldwide reference in terms of renewable share. When we sum up the share of hydraulic, wind, sugarcane products, and other biomass contribution, the renewable share amounts to 41%. Compared to the renewable share of the world and of the OECD countries, respectively, 9% and 13%. Very different from Brazil, isn't it? Water, wind, energy, sun, sea. As the WEO puts, I quote, Brazil occupies an enviable position in the global energy system. Its endowment of energy resources is vast, varied, and more than sufficient to meet the country's needs. End of quote. So let's start with hydraulic energy potential in Brazil. Brazil has the third biggest hydro potential of the world. It is estimated in 260 gigawatts. That is approximately 10% of the world's hydro potential. However, only 1/3 of it has been developed so far. How this compares to the rest of the world? In this figure, select countries represent 2/3 of the world's hydrotechnical potential already developed. You can notice that, different from Brazil, developed countries have already used most of their hydro potential. As I said, 2/3 of our potential hasn't been exploited so far. That is, there is 175 gigawatts of hydro potential yet no exploited. However, we are planning to develop only 96 gigawatts. And why so? Almost 6% of the Brazilian hydro potential yet to be developed is on the Amazon basin. When it comes to planning the energy sector, The biggest challenge in Brazil is how to reconcile the biodiversity protection, the indigenous lands, and the development of hydraulic potential. As a result, we are giving up almost 8 gigawatts. No matter how successful in using all the remaining available hydro potential, Brazil still needs a mix of renewable sources to meet the expected demand growth in the horizon up to 2050. And what's next? Biomass from sugarcane is one of them. Sugarcane is a wonderful plant. It has a high energy content, and Brazil has a huge bioenergy potential. 1 ton of sugarcane has the same energy content of 1.2 crude oil barrels. Brazil has favorable geographic and natural conditions to produce bioenergy, such as land availability for agriculture, good soil characteristics, and climate conditions. Also, technology to produce fuel, ethanol, and electricity cogeneration is easily available to investors. But not least, Brazil has relatively low cost. In a nutshell, Brazil has a huge potential in biomass. Another renewable source that's growing in Brazil is the wind. The estimated wind energy potential amounts to 144 gigawatts, measured at 50 meters. But this potential is certainly higher. Measured to over 100 meters, this wind energy potential can overcome 300 megawatts. And Brazil is attracting worldwide attention because of the growth of wind power capacity in recent years. Take a look at the recent wind power development. The increasing share of wind power in Brazil represents a break in the international paradigm. And why so? Different from the incentive payment embedded in the widespread feed-in tariff system, Brazil has adopted the power auction mechanism. The Brazilian auction system encourages generators to reduce their price, make the real cost of wind power projects feasible, which promotes reduction in the manufacturing price of wind turbines. The bottom line, the hydropower reservoir can work as a large battery for biomass and wind power, storing energy while the biomass power plants and wind farms are generating and produce energy when biomass and wind power are largely unavailable. And here comes the sun. The solar power is also promising in Brazil, as we are a mainly tropical country. In Brazil, the average installation in a year varies from 1,500 to 2,200 kilowatt-hour per square meter, which is substantially higher than most of EU countries, in average 80% more than Germany, 55% more than France, and 25% more than Spain. The decreasing international trend in solar power price and the comparative advance of Brazil give incentives to solar power insertion in our electricity balance. Therefore, expect sooner in the future to have solar power projects competing in the auction resources. Recently, we have discovered that we have oil too. The pre-salt discoveries have confirmed the increased importance of Brazil in the international oil market. In 10 years, Brazil oil production will increase significantly. The country's production of conventional oil can be almost 5 million barrels per day by 2020 and 6 million barrels per day by 2035. And at that time, Brazil will have an important contribution to global oil production. Most of it will come from the pre-salt layer, where technology plays an important role. One important point in the whole Brazil have in international oil markets, according to Wood Mackenzie, there will be a gap of about 23 million barrels per day between the production of existing projects and demand in 2020. So it's visible that new oil projects are essential to fill this gap. And Brazil will have an important role considering the production of oil projects starting from 2013 on. The production of Brazil in 2020 exported to international markets can reach 2.7 million barrels per day. It's time to turn to the nuclear option. Right now, so many doubts. Prices are increasing, so many safety conditions, but in the long run, in 2050, Brazil is also well endowed in terms of uranium reserves. You are the 6th world's largest uranium reserve, but more research for new uranium reserves is needed. So far, only 30% of our territory has been mapped. It's possible that estimated additional reserves be more than 800,000 tons, which will make us one of the world's largest reserves of uranium. And you have the option to produce the nuclear fuel in Brazil. In the horizon up to 2050, they expect a large amount of uranium in the country and in the nuclear fuel cycle capacity, making nuclear power a real alternative of energy supply if necessary. So, what are the prospects for Brazil in the long run? In the next 10 years, Brazil will remain one of the most renewable countries in the world. And we have all the conditions and resources to continue to be so. And further, Brazil will turn a decisive oil export country in the next 10 years. That is, we will become the first oil major producing country to have a significant renewable share in the energy balance. Thank you.
Thank you, Mauricio, for presenting us the Brazilian challenges and its contribution for the future energy matrix of the world. Now we are going to invite Ying Fan. She is Director for the Center for Energy and Environmental Policy Research in China. This is
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's my great honor to present here. I'm from Chinese Academy of Sciences. Today I'm going to present the energy demand and the supply in China, also the energy challenges. During last decades, China has experienced quick economic growth, and this economic growth is accompanied by a quick energy demand increase. The annual economic growth rate in average is more than 10% since 2000. And also the primary energy consumption growth rate is 7.6%, and energy production growth rate is 7.4%. And for the energy consumption mix, and the energy, China has consumed 3.75 billion ton co-equivalent energy in 2013. And also for the coal, it's 2/3. And for oil, it's 18.6%, and the gas is 5.6%, and the nuclear and the renewable is almost 10%. That's the number in 2013. Coal is still dominating the energy consumption mix so far. And for electricity, more than 75% is produced by thermal power. And for the total primary energy supply per capita, so far the U.S. is still the highest one. The TPS per capita is 710, a little lower than before, but still the highest. And then Korea and Japan is in the second grade, around 4.5, 10 per capita. Now China is still lower. The TPS per capita is 1.9 per capita, 1.910 per capita. So this number is still low, which implies partly there will be an increase in the future. And let's see the energy gap and the energy import. The total energy import ratio is 90%. But for oil, the oil import is 57% in 2013. And the gas import is 38%. And oil also import 8% in 2013. Let's look at the energy intensity. The energy intensity has experienced a dramatic decline in recent years. In our 11th five-year plan, we have achieved a 19% energy intensity decrease. It's a very huge decrease. For the next five-year plan, I mean the fifth five-year plan from 2010 to 2015, the energy intensity decline target is 16%. So what's the energy demand in the future? There are still lots of uncertainties. Here's the forecast from International Energy Agency. The report said China will account for 31% of the world energy demand growth from 2011 to 2030. We can see from this table, and the energy demand in the current policy scenario will be 46 billion ton oil equivalent in 2035. If this current policy scenario move to 450 scenarios, the total energy demand will be decreased to 3.3 billion. It's more than a million lower than current policy scenario. If we compare with BP's forecast, and the BP's forecast is, let's see, the 2030 is 4.5 billion. So this the BP's forecast is close to the current policy scenario from IEA forecast. And here's the result of net oil and the gas import share. We can see from the figure, China and India is located in this area, which means the import of oil and gas will increase significantly in the future. Here's the result from our center. We did this 2 years ago for Asian Development Bank Institute as a background paper. And we set 3 different scenarios. One is the reference scenario is quite similar with the current policy scenario from IEA. And we have other two. One is intensive economic growth scenario, and another is enhanced low carbon scenario. Then for these three scenarios, we give different focus for the key factors like economic growth, population growth, and technology growth. Then we can get a result as let's just say the 2030. You can see that in reference scenario, our forecast is almost 4 billion. Is a little lower than IEA's forecast. This result is worse than 2 years ago. And for if we cannot complement the current policy successfully, so the total energy demand will increase to 4.4 billion. If we take a low carbon policy, this number will decrease to 3.6. So the forecast of energy demand will depend on the policy options and how the policy will be implemented. Now let's move to the supply side. In China, the coal production continues to increase in recent years, but will increase lower in the future. And hopefully the peak will be before 2030 and under 400 million ton. For oil supply, our plan is try to keep the production within 180 million ton and 200 million ton, just make it stable until 2030 or longer. This plan is a little different from BP's forecast because BP forecast that the oil production in China holds near 200 million ton to 2025. After that, the production will fall notably to 130 million ton in 2035. And also the BP said that light tight oil production in China will increase to past the 200 kilo barrel per day level in 2020. And for natural gas supply, the production from IEA and BP said that the rises will rises triple to almost 320 billion in 2035 from the number in 2011. This number depends on the growth with conventional gas and the implementation of reforms and the pricing of wholesale gas. And for the renewable energy potential, China has contributed a lot, increasing the share to the total primary energy and will reach 28% in 2035. And the new wind installations are concentrated in China for the whole world view, which has the largest share in 2035. And also, China has installed solar PV increases by 150 gigawatt compared with 2012. So from these figures on the energy demand and the supply, we can get following challenges in China. First is the energy demand still has lots of uncertainties. These uncertainties mainly come from the population, economic growth, and the industrialization process, and the technology progress, and also related to energy and climate policies. so the futures and the demand is uncertain. Let's see, this figure is empirical work from our center. We just compare the different countries with a new indicator. It is that consumption type energy consumption and construction type energy consumption. We compare these two numbers and then we gave an indicator. That's consumption type to construction type energy demand. We list here. Then we list the per capita GDP here. Then we can see for most countries there is a clear U-turn, U-curve. And that means most countries will experience this type of energy consumption. First, mostly used to consumption, then used to construction, and then again used more to consumption. We can see the figure from China is over here. That means China still uses most energy in construction area. So in future, this number will still, the energy consumption will still increase because we need to translate from the construction to consumption type. This number is used in the normal exchange rate. If we use different exchange rate, this point may move to right, so it's still low. And then the second challenge is energy security. This because one is the resources restriction, and another is the alternative energy is still with lots of uncertainties. And for the conventional gas and oil, there are lots of uncertainties. And from the BP's forecast, the reserve of shale gas is roughly estimated to be 25 billion. Yeah, that's trillion. Yeah, it's large uncertainty. But shale gas in China is complex. One is the geographical complex. The geological condition is complex, and the depth. And the depth is much deeper than U.S. and is estimated to 1.8 thousand meter to 4.8 thousand meter deep. And also it is located population area in the mountain area. Also the water problem. So this is lots of uncertainties. And for the energy shortage, we can see just simplistic, the oil import will be near 80% in the future. And also the gas import will around 70% in 2030. For coal import, it's quite different. If in the reference scenario, it's 50%, but in the economic scenario, it's 35%. If it's a low carbon scenario, only 3.5%. And the third challenge is environmental pollution. Now we have very heavy fog in haze, so the policy side is paying more and more attention to this fog in haze pollution reduction. And the first challenge is climate change. That's you all know the emission of greenhouse gas that very fast in China, but the emission intensity decreased fast. And so come to the policy in the intention side, we have lots of policy intention there. The first one is our 12th five-year plan. We have specific targets like to adjust economic structure, increase the share of value added in service sector, and reduce energy use and reduce the emission intensity. And also we have energy consumption control policies, including energy conservation, energy use standard, resources tax, energy efficiency trade, and energy performance contraction, and especially the tens of thousands of enterprises for energy saving and the low carbon action plan. Then we have economic structure adjustment. And the other, like renewable energy promotion, we have successful feed-in tariff policy and more and more R&D investment in renewable area. Then resources development, we use to unconventional energy development, and we still develop nuclear, and we focus on international cooperation. And for pollution control and climate mitigation, we have air pollution prevention action plan. We have 7 emission trading scheme pilots so far. So we have specific policies. I don't mention this for details. To sum up, I don't repeat these conclusions. I have said that, but in a word, I just say we have different policies to focus on this for challenges, and also for different challenges, different policies. There will be a huge co-benefit. So we are confident to achieve, to improve the amount in the future. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Yufan. So, getting more complex is, we have a country like Brazil that, if everything goes okay, can make a big contribution to the world with supply of energy. And a country like China with big challenges in terms of energy supply, maybe an increased dependency, and environmental problems that are not easy. So what that means for the private sector, what this picture is like for the private sector. We have to talk to Frederick Jansen. He's CEO for Latin America from Origin Energy. Frederick has a very large experience building large and complex energy projects in developing countries. So, Frederick, can you tell us a little bit about how you see the private sector playing this game?
Good afternoon. Well, thank you, Ricardo, for the invitation to speak in this panel. I'll try to keep the presentation rather of a management or philosophical point of view, in which I will try to connect the dots on how do we see the energy environment and what are the big elements. So let's try to see the, as they say, the woods between the trees. Let's focus on the essentials, because the theme here is global demand growth, which is clear and undisputed. Issues on CO2, global impact shared by everyone, but decision making at the end of the day generally taking on a local level, and all connected on the geopolitical dimension that keeps surfacing. So I'll try to focus rather on those elements. As we are private sector, of course, the obligatory disclaimer. I won't read it, not to worry. So, global energy demand is when Ricardo asked me, please can you come and speak about global energy demand growth globally? It's a title that covers all sins, right? It can be basically anything. So, the elements that, the storyline here, the elements that I want to bring forward is, first of all, the global energy demand and the correlation with GDP. It was very extensively debated on Monday in this seminar, and quite interesting sessions of the different professors here in this very same room, where everybody agreed that for low GDP countries the correlation is higher, and as GDP grows the correlation is lower. Excellent. Whether the cause is causal relation or consequences GDP drives the energy efficiency or vice versa can be debated, as some suggested, but it's a fact that it will continue that, and that's causing significant CO2 issues that has to be addressed by stakeholders, public and private, and realize that each single action, each small and large action actually has potential repercussions. We've seen that generally there is a consensus that climate change is affecting. The big winners seem to be renewables and natural gas. We see that in the LNG market, remains a long-term market, but it's increasing spot volumes or short-term volumes. Now, if you look at the LNG market also, we'll try to zoom out a little bit into small detailed discussions and go into rather tendencies. As in fact mentioned, China is an interesting case. Before joining Origin, I led the unconventional department for GDF Suez globally. And one of the elements, for example, that comes through in all the evaluations is China is projecting 100 to 120 BCM of unconventional shale type production by 2022. That's more than the complete output of Australian LNG. Australia explaining that they will be the largest LNG provider globally. So imagine that China goes faster. Imagine they go slower. Imagine that they don't go at all. As you mentioned, shale gas is a challenge. Water infrastructure, distance of the Ordos and other basins to the demand centers. Very interesting graph on the correlation between infrastructure, construction, and energy. And this is just one country leading the energy demand over the following 2 decades. Globally on 30%. Very interesting. Renewables are the next winner, but of course, as a lot of speakers yesterday explained, renewables alone cannot make the day, so they have to be compatible with hydro, as Mauricio explained. Everybody aims for energy autonomy, not to say independence, but the largest system clearly benefits a copper plate approach, as the one in Europe when the trading started in the late 90s. So a lot of questions on all of these sources. And so if we step back, energy projects are at least 20 years, correct? 25 years if you look at financing optimizations. Just to zoom in, I'm not going into the detail of yesterday's Statoil Energy Outlook presented in Columbia University, but this is the last 17 years. Kyoto signed, activated in 2005, major nuclear disaster. European trading system launched that today represents 40% of emissions on the whole EU level, while prices plummeted in 2012 was the historical high for coal imports in the UK and Germany from the US. Germany on May 11th, maybe that's not something all of you follow, but it was the time that Germany at around noon had a 70% energy output driven by renewables, 70% of the biggest economy of Europe. This is significant. China and Russia signing a 400 billion deal on fossil fuels, oil and derivatives. This is just 17 years, so when we discuss energy projects today for the next 20 years, hydro, big infrastructure, big projects, basically we're trying to develop something that would survive on all levels, contractual, financial, social, economical. 2 decades. 2 decades in which 2017, 2034, it's just sufficient to go across the presentations of the last 2 days and see all the projections by 2030 on countries of renewables. Europe, emission reductions, emission prices that will go to $40 to $70 per ton, 26% renewable output in the Chinese Republic by 2030. Not a lot of voices on Latin America, but a very interesting slide there on the previous presentation where we would see that the other country next to the US that would be a game changer in magnificent imports of oil and gas towards export by 2017 to 2020 respectively. gas and oil. The other one would be Brazil. So we're talking about 2 decades in which the biggest economy of Latin America and then the US would both take a position completely opposite to the historical position that they've known on oil and gas. I remember in 2002 and 2003 when we discussed excuse me, price of the gas, Henry Hub was $2 to $3. Somebody would have said it's going to be $8. That would have been basically a free option because it didn't exist. And before 2010, Henry hit $12. So it's a volatile world, and there are a lot of questions, and the only security problem is that everything that we are saying will be wrong, which is okay. And secondly, the technology will find a way that probably today we're not even conscious that will exist. Now, connecting to the previous presentation, just staying on the helicopter level, population